Hey, friends. Welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City a lovely place to live. It is a wonderfully warm August day here in Johnson City. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Tom Toll. He is Chief Experience Officer at Ballad Health, husband, father, most importantly, avid exerciser, and really good friend. So, how are you doing today,
I'm
Tom?
doing great, Colin. It's good to see you again today.
Well, I get to see you almost every morning, and it just really starts my day off wonderfully. So, if you're out there listening in the world and you want to come to Johnson City and work out, we will gladly put you in our program. And
Start the day out right.
yeah, it's probably good that it's on a podcast. They can't see us visually because they'd probably be like, I don't know, that guy Colin, he doesn't look so fit. Um, but yes, how long have you been working out, by the way?
About 10 years.
Yeah. So that was kind of when we met, wasn't it? Back in
About
at
10 years.
the wellness center. And okay, so let's first of all, listeners, this guy does not live in Johnson City. He is a neighbor to the south, kind of east, I guess. In how do you say it? Elizabethton.
Elizabethton.
Oh,
Yeah.
Elizabethton.
Look at you.
I'm just kidding. A lot of people come in, they're like that. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
How do you? And I
The
say
most
it.
mispronounced word out there.
Yeah, Elizabethton. So tell me, how long have you lived in Elizabethton? Did you grow up in Elizabethton?
I did not. So I grew up in Knoxville.
Okay.
We lived out in West Knoxville, went to UT for my
Okay.
undergrad.
Hey, I did too. When did
you
you
go.
graduate?
A long time before you did.
76. I graduated in 96.
No, I graduated in 84. Less than
So we were close.
76. Golly. But anyway, so I met my wife in college.
Awesome.
And she's from Elizabethton. And she didn't like Knoxville, but wanted to live in Elizabethton.
Oh.
So we put resumes out, and God was good, and we found jobs relatively quickly, and the rest is history.
Tell me about your wife.
So my wife, it's Chris Ann Toll,
Mhm.
Chris Ann Watts Toll. She's a special education teacher for about 31 years in the Elizabethton school system.
Mm.
And then her family also started a dance studio 71 years ago. And
I
so,
knew she had one.
yeah,
I didn't know it was 71 years
her
ago.
mom started 71 years ago, still active in it.
That's
And
amazing.
then they've got 2 locations. So she is doing that full time now. A lot of kids come through. If you've danced in that area, you may have taken dance at Watts Dance Studio. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's fun.
Has she taught you how to dance?
Actually, I have learned how to tap
Really?
a little bit,
Okay.
a very little bit.
You haven't shown us that at the gym. I don't know why you're
We
holding
may,
back.
yeah, we may not do that.
You gonna bring the shoes tomorrow?
There you go.
And you have children.
I do. I have 2 kids. Caleb, who is a assistant director for alumni relations at ETSU.
Nice.
Married
Recently married.
He married Erica about 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and she's a clinical dietitian at Bristol Regional.
Okay.
And they have my only grandchild to date, and that's Alexander. And then my daughter is on the faculty, Annalee, is on the faculty at Emory and Henry and ETSU. And then her husband, Cameron, is a clinical pharmacist here in Johnson City.
Awesome. Well, you've got a great crew. I see them on Facebook. I see you around town with them, and they're a good looking bunch.
We have fun.
I'm hoping she can teach you how to dance more.
There you
That'd be exciting for you. So you can pass it on to me at the gym.
I can't wait to try to attempt to do that.
Yeah. So tell me about a chief experience officer. First of all, tell us about Ballad Health. For listeners who aren't here, a lot of people live all over the world.
Sure.
And so what is Ballad Health?
So I'll give you the 60-second kind of here's what it is.
Okay.
So Ballad Health actually was formed in 2018, and it's a merger, a combination of our 2 health systems, both Mountain States Health Alliance and Wellmont Health System. So we have 22 acute care facilities. We have inpatient behavioral health, about 350 physician practice outpatient locations, and we serve a 29 county region. The coolest part about Ballad Health is there are very few organizations that are positioned like this one is in the country. And we've got a medical school, we have residency programs, we have fellowship programs, we have small critical access hospitals. So it's the major provider of healthcare in this region.
Yeah, it's huge. How many employees are?
There's about 15,000 employees, plus our medical
How
staff.
many people live in Elizabeth?
It's about the size of Elizabethton.
It's about, yeah. Like if you put it all together, like packed it in, it'd be like Elizabethton.
It is. But the other cool part about it is we don't just provide healthcare. Ballad Health is going to be a population health entity.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all kinds of work looking at how can we improve quality of life? How can we decrease morbidities? How can we partner with the school systems? How can we partner with business and industry? It's been a really fun ride so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even with the pandemic, it's been a really fun ride so far.
Right. Yeah. Because you guys had to do a lot of extra work last year, didn't you?
We Healthcare is very different than
Mm-hmm.
it ever was. And if you'd ever told me that we would have faced what we're facing today with a pandemic, you would have shaken your head and said, "No, not in this." And it can happen.
Sure.
But we've
Yeah.
got great people who are doing heroic things every day.
Tell me one of the best things you learned or that came for ballad. What came out of COVID that you're like, oh, we we we've really done well here.
I think one of the best things is education.
Mhm.
There's so much misinformation out there, and so Ballad Health has been kind of at the forefront of let us tell you what we know. We have, weekly podcasts, we have weekly Facebook lives. We put out scorecards daily,
Mhm.
and so the partnership, it speaks to the people of the region
Mhm.
between the health department and our local school systems, our business community. It really speaks to partnership and that element of trust.
Mhm.
So, translate to why would you want to live here?
Mhm.
Um, Unlike many regions in the country, people have common goals. They get behind them.
Mhm.
We may not always agree,
Right.
but they get behind them, and so the level of support's been astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of people moving here and asking. And one of the calls I'll get, hey, we're thinking about moving from California to Johnson City, and tell us about healthcare there. And I say, well, you pretty much have anything you need. And with the research hospital, we've got a children's hospital, and then with the med school right behind the, I guess, the center hospital in the organization. They're working to start a research, collaborative effort there that's going to be huge in the future. And so you'll be able to take care of anything. I mean, and that's what I hear. I hear our people are like, we don't want to have to go to Vanderbilt or
Right.
Duke and that kind of thing. And so we don't. We've got a ton of specialists here, and you can
Yeah.
pretty much anything that you need to have taken care of, we've got it.
I usually tell people we don't do burns because burn centers are very scarce. But other than that, and like total probably transplant,
Right.
we do transplant, but not heart. You can get it done here by folks who trained at Harvard or trained at some of the leading institutions in the country,
Yeah.
and we're also connected via networks. So, for instance, the one of the radiation oncologists in our network went to Harvard and is also teaches and does consulting at Harvard.
Oh,
We have multiple folks who are consulting with Duke, with MD Anderson. So it is an incredible network that people don't understand what we've got here
well,
sometimes.
and I mean, doctors aren't idiots. They want to live in a beautiful place where their pace of life is fantastic, and so they're like, hey, if I can do what I love to do and do it in an area that's just amazing, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And so I think our little secret's out.
Well, I hope it is. It's interesting that you say California. Over the last year,
Uh huh.
we've probably had three couples either visit or join my little church from California.
Yeah, I
They've
think we've talked about that.
moved into the region. So
Yeah, we've moved in. I'm going to say at least four families from California and a couple from Illinois area. I mean, they're moving everywhere.
yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's
Well,
awesome.
and so Colin, don't you think the other piece to that is the pandemic has taught us that we can do a lot virtually?
Oh yeah,
So, if you work virtually, why in the world would you not want to live where you have access to what I have access to here and
yes,
still be able to work anywhere in the world?
sure. Why would you want to look at a cubicle wall when you can look at mountains and
Exactly.
streams and beautiful four seasons? And yeah, I mean, that's what people are finding out, that they don't have to look at that little cubicle wall all day.
Yeah, this sounds like a travel log for the Tri Cities.
It is a little bit like, and if you want to make it your permanent travel destination, I'd love to help you with that. So Chief Experience Officer. Is this because that like you've been so long in the like in the industry, they were like, well, we can't really get rid of him. We got to give him some kind of. Tell me about Chief Experience Officer. What is that?
Yeah,
What do you
so
do? It sounds like a lot of fun. Is the reason I'm a little jealous.
it is probably the most fun job ever.
Yeah.
So a lot of health systems have a chief experience officer, and it's to look at how do we improve our experience or that care process for our patients and families. So growing consumerism is in healthcare as well.
Sure.
And so how do we look at patients and families and make it easy to register? How do we make it easy to get your appointment? What about once you get into the facility? How do I understand what's going on? And let's face it, healthcare is a labyrinth trying to navigate
Yeah.
within. So it's looking at that. I have the good pleasure in my job not only just to look at the patient and family engagement
Hmm.
side, but also team member engagement. How do
Yeah,
we build that culture?
sure.
And our physician engagement. How do we make it easy for those docs to practice with us? And how do we make it a place where they want to be
Right.
and provide excellent care to their patients?
Yeah.
So I get to play in everybody's backyard and just do fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book. I worked for Marriott years and 20 something years ago. It's called The Experience Economy. And
Yep,
you
Pines and
deal with
Gilmore.
everything you deal with is an experience, whether it's I've got a MacBook in front of me. How's it feel? How's it look? Does it even work? That's part of it, but what's it like? And so walking into a hospital, what does it smell like? What does it feel like? What's the lighting like? What was I greeted at the door? So I think it would be a lot of fun to be in your role and just kind of experience those things and see how do we tweak them? How do we make them better for the consumer or the
Yeah.
unfortunately, because a lot of times people are coming in there in crisis mode and that's another
Well,
experience.
and to your point, unless you're having a baby with us, we
Right.
typically see patients when they're at their worst.
Right.
They're scared, they're anxious, they don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
next. And that's the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
So how do we start to put our arms around that? And also at a time when consumer demand is growing, processes have to change. What does that look like? And oh my goodness, we do phenomenal things, but we have so many ways in which we can improve.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always work to be done.
There is always work to be done and a great team with whom to work.
Yeah. I mean, with 15,000 people, you've got to have 12,000 awesome ones, and then 3,000 that are just great. But
Well, and I think a lot of it is behavior change.
yeah.
Is how do we help people understand perspective,
Yeah.
and then how do we help them understand how to connect?
Yeah.
And so,
What does the future look like for Ballad Health?
wow, that's a loaded question. So,
Well, give me a year out to 5 years.
yeah,
I
so
mean, for what you guys are thinking, because you're one of the
when
chief
when
fellows
we
over there.
formed Ballot Health,
Yeah.
it really was an attempt to remove duplication,
Right.
an attempt to start to create a research pod or research pool, and to improve the health of the community. And so when we formed, we have the state of Tennessee and state of Virginia have metrics that they look over us and watch and see what we're doing.
That's the COPA.
That's the COPA and the terms of conditions.
Okay.
And so there's 200 plus metrics in there that we monitor, we provide them information on. But I think the future for us is if and when we get past pandemic, I think the future is seeing a lot of those programs continue to move forward. We're the biggest accountable care community that was formed in the state of Virginia. Over 300 agencies are coming together to look at how do we improve quality of life for at-risk people. So healthcare is a portion of that, but
Right.
healthcare is kind of at the center of a lot of that. So,
So you're trying to change lifestyle almost and like history of, how people have exercised maybe or not exercised
right,
or what are they consuming and not consuming and just changing habits,
yeah,
really.
and we don't have to all be svelte and perfect
Not
weight.
all of us can be like you,
But
Tim.
what we do have to do is figure out a way that you can teach a different way.
Sure.
And so it's we have a strong starts program, we have a strong futures program, we have a strong kids program. And so a couple of years ago we started the morning mile, and that was to get kids to start to exercise,
Yeah.
and we incentivized them to run before they came to school.
Oh,
And if they run, study safe, they run, exercise, they're more eager and ready to learn,
sure.
and you're starting to change those behaviors. So I think the future for us is not just what people think of the traditional, I got to go to the hospital.
Right.
It's everything else outside of the hospital. I also think the future is much more virtual health and outpatient monitoring and picking up your smartphone and seeing your primary care physician and all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. We've done some of that and it's interesting for sure. And it's very helpful. I mean, you don't have to leave your home,
Right.
which is very helpful.
Well, and so fly that forward. During COVID times, there we have a post-COVID clinic that
Uh-huh.
we do a lot of virtual care through. The patients, just because you've had COVID and you go through your 2.5, 3.5, 4 or 5, whatever weeks,
Yeah.
you don't just stop there.
Right.
And so that Center for Post-COVID Care just continues, and virtual health is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. How's your team doing with COVID. I mean, like I hear, we're on the front lines. You guys are the front lines, really, and we've got a lot of physician friends that are just, they're at their wits' end. It's just getting worse and worse,
Yeah.
or not. I mean, they're saying more cases are popping up, and so how do you guys? How are you embracing
Yeah.
all that?
I think
As
if
how's the experience there?
I,
I know this is a
well,
tough question for you.
I think the one thing to understand is just the general fatigue
Yeah,
of your physician friends or your nurse friends or your tech
yeah,
friends or anyone, or EVS people.
yeah,
It's the general fatigue because there's such a mental piece of providing care, not just learning about this new disease that we're learning about, but also the fear of, wait a minute, we have protective equipment and yes, it does work, and we are confident in that, but there's still a little bit of fear there.
yeah,
We're in a national nursing shortage,
yeah,
not just here but across the country.
yeah.
So fewer people, fewer resources, growing demand, so many things you can't do with the COVID patients. So I think how they're doing is they're tired.
Sure, because they're having
And
to work extra hours to cover the
oh
shifts
my
because of the
goodness.
shortage, and then more people, and
Yep, and then plus, and I don't mean this to be a political statement one way or the other, but there are ways to mitigate coming down with COVID. And so, the vaccines are out there. People, for whatever reason, they believe in them or they don't believe in them.
right.
And I'm not going to question their belief one way or the other. Um, but it is difficult for healthcare providers because they're seeing what happens when either folks aren't vaccinated or come down with a pretty severe case.
Mhm,
And, it can be prevented. I could say the same thing about obesity.
mhm.
People who don't exercise willfully don't.
Right.
There are certain things that happen with your body,
Yeah, and
and
unfortunately, why I guess maybe you could answer. I think our area's, um, population is a little heavier than average.
it
And
is.
what's the story behind that, you
It
think?
is. Well, so you're going back through generations and generations
Yeah.
of how we cook, how we eat, what we do. And unfortunately, um, pre-technology,
Mhm.
you could eat unhealthily because you were agrarians. You
Right.
were out and you were working outside, you
Right,
were
right,
in
right.
fields. So then technology comes, and all of a sudden we're not agrarians anymore, and we have less chance to move and
Mhm,
exercise, but we're still cooking the same way and eating the same way.
mhm.
And Lord, I love a good old plate of biscuits and gravy. But
Fried chicken.
yeah, there you go. I'm getting hungry. But that does have an impact to it.
Yes.
And so it's not a value judgment. It's just a statement of it is what it is. And so how do we do things in moderation? How do we learn different things? And that's where one reason the kids programs are so important
Yeah, which I
is
think's awesome. I didn't
how
know
do we
that.
do that? Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot of partnerships with the schools. A lot of partnerships with the schools.
yeah. What's your favorite thing about your job?
I'd have to say the favorite thing about my job is the people.
Yeah.
I work with some amazingly brilliant individuals, both clinically and non-clinically. But the people, I love, going to the grocery store or seeing somebody that works for us and you
Mhm,
recognize them or they
mhm,
recognize you and you realize that ballot health is not a thing.
mm-mm,
It's a collection of people.
mm.
I just love the people.
Yeah.
They've got stories. It's just the great people are great.
That's what I tell about my job. I love meeting new people. I love helping them, however, whatever that looks like. A lot of
Mhm.
time, and some it's not just helping them find a house. That's fun, but just what do you need? And then seeing them later on, and they're loving the area, and they're well taken care of by you guys if they need healthcare stuff. And so, yeah, I just love people,
Well, that's
and I
evident.
think our area is just we're blessed with just great ones.
We do have incredible folks. Some folks who have, certainly with the university, we've
Uh
got
huh.
folks who have advanced degrees, and all that's great. We have folks who may have never gone to the university,
Sure.
and that's awesome as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little like you. I just like seeing them and talking to them and learning about them, and then
Yeah.
seeing them do really cool things.
Yeah.
God put us here to celebrate each other, so I love
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah. And I think, and I've talked about this a number of times. I think that we have a huge population of believers in our area, and you can feel that they, truly love people, and it just comes across over and over, and it shows up over and over where they give abundantly to things and give their time and just resources, and it makes the whole area just better because they're giving their lives away.
Sure.
You know.
Well, and when you talk about people coming here, um, we have the choice to live a lot of places, but if you want to live in a community that you feel supported and you want to live in a community that you feel has great schools, yada yada, all that good stuff, but But at the end of the day, you want to live in a place where there are connections.
Hmm.
I think we are such a region of connection.
Yeah.
People who knew people for generations, etc.
Right.
It's incredible to think about that, and then the impact it continues to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of connections, we're connected via a road now to Elizabethton, so you guys can come over to Johnson City. I'm just kidding. Tell us about Elizabethton. What? So I love Elizabethton for everybody who's listening. It is just a quaint, like quintessential little town. You go downtown and they have car shows on Friday night. They've got the old diner downtown. They've got a little theater. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me what you love about it.
So I'll go to the same people.
Yeah.
Since Chris and I grew up there, I had instant connections and instant acceptance, if you will.
You got credibility.
I had street creds.
That's street credit. Instant street credit.
But the fact that I can live, when we bought our house in Elizabethton, my father-in-law says to me that at the time I thought that was odd, and now I so truly understand it. He said, "You're going to love that 15-minute drive from Johnson City to Elizabethton."
It is beautiful.
It's beautiful. So I could get my car, look at the mountains to the right. You've got mountains in front of you. We live over on the golf course over there, and it's just a pretty little setting. But yet I can be at my office in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Chrisanne can be at the studio in less than 15 minutes. And it just works. The people are gracious, love a little downtown, our sandwich shops.
Yeah.
There's a food theme going on here.
There is.
Antiques.
Elizabethton Coffee Company is fantastic.
It is.
You can see my buddy Jerry Williams there pretty much every day.
There's
He's the pastor of Redstone, Elizabethton.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our church is over there. We love our church, and it's a nice community that can be closer in, but yet a small town feel.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a lot of people who love. They say, well, Johnson City seems a little maybe too busy for us. We're going to go look for a spot over here. And I'm like, you're not going to regret it. It's awesome over there. So we go find them a house in Elizabethton.
Yep. The person who bought the house across the street from me, they moved in about 3 years ago from California.
Hey, look at that.
And it's so funny because they sit on their deck and they look at the mountains.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said to me was, gosh, what's not to love? Like I'm on vacation every day of the year.
Yeah.
And we just forget that. Of course, if we moved to the beach, we'd say, well, it's not to love. We get to the beach every year. But
I don't know. Every time I'm driving home from the beach, you kind of get on that eastern south side of Asheville, and you see the mountains ahead, and you're just like, oh, I'm home finally. Because every time I'm at the beach too, I'm like, I need to get up on a hill to where I can see where I'm at, because I don't know where I'm at. I'm lost my bearings. So
that's funny.
Yes, and that's just the way I'm. Yeah, and
so when you fly in here, it's just you're looking at the Appalachian Mountains, and they just kind of gently roll, and it's a beautiful area.
It is gorgeous.
But yet you're close enough. If you want to go to New York, you can fly to New York real quickly.
Right.
If you want to get to the beach, you can get to the beach real quickly. You can go to DC, you can go to Atlanta. But we don't have to fight the daily grind of that every day. So I think it's the best of both worlds. We kind of live where a lot of people come to vacation.
Yeah.
But yet we can get to those other places when we want to get to something that you can't get here.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And we're seeing tons of tourists. And I'm going, I grew up here. Why would you go on vacation here? But I see it now, and it's funny.
Well, so here's one for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone kayaking on Watauga Lake or the local rivers?
Yes.
Good.
I've been kayaking and whitewater rafting down in Nolachucky, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And tubing, floating. You ever do tubing?
We do. But so those are the things that people plan on their vacation.
That's true.
We could do tomorrow if you wanted to take off work and take me.
Okay. I'm good. I'm scratch the afternoon out. Let's go. Let's do it. That'd be fun. Our good friend Chris Shea has kayaks. They were on his car this morning, and so he's going out.
So we know exactly what he's going to be doing.
He and his son Casey are probably kayaking right now in Boone Lake, which we have a lake now. Thank you.
Yes. Isn't it
TVA.
nice? It's nice to go across those bridges and see water.
Yes. So for our listeners who were like, what are they talking about? We had a lake for a number of years. It was beautiful, highly recreational. And then the dam started leaking water around the bottom of it. And I guess for dams, that's not a good thing. So they were like, oh, wait, we got to drain the lake. And 7 years later, they fixed it. And now we have water again. And it's a beautiful, beautiful lake. And everybody's really excited about it. And lake property is going through the roof. I'm seeing lots of people like, can you find me a house on the lake? I'm like, everybody wants one. What's your favorite thing about Johnson City? Like, what do you love to do in Johnson City besides workout? Because
Yeah.
obviously you work out here.
I think my favorite thing in Johnson City would probably either be eating, because
We
again,
have a lot of
that
great.
food thing, a lot of great restaurants, and then shopping at some of our shops. You know, you can go to Mahoney's and find almost anything outdoor that you're
They're
looking
really
for.
and so knowledgeable there.
Yeah, and so nice.
This podcast is sponsored by Mahoney's.
So
Dan.
it's going shopping. Um, it's just knowing you still know the shop owners.
Yeah.
Go to the antique stores or go to some of those small shops, and they know you and they
Yeah.
talk to you and
Yeah.
they're interested. So
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is, like you said, you'll go somewhere and you see somebody at the grocery store. You go to the mall, you'll see somebody. I just had lunch and I saw literally 5 people I knew, and so it feels very intimate. Yet we're getting bigger and bigger, and so it's still fun to see
yeah,
people you
it's
know.
that
And
familial thing where you
yeah, my goal is to know everybody, and
ah
so pretty soon I think there are about 5 people I don't know, and so I'm gonna get to know those. I
we'll
do
have
want
to
to
work
know
on that
everybody.
for you.
Yeah, if you'll introduce me to those 5 people I don't know,
We'll
that'd be
work
great.
on that.
That'd be great. Um, so tell us a little bit about Christine's dance stuff. We can give her a plug for people who are moving here and want dance opportunities to
Sure.
learn how to tap dance like you, or maybe what,
Better than me.
tango. I mean, we do it
So
all.
they
What's
so
some?
they do
But they probably have a focus. I'm gonna
yeah.
be quiet because you know all about it.
So their studio it was started traditional ballet, tap, jazz, and then they added acrobatics or gymnastics, and they have hip hop. So it's the traditional dance. It's not
Yes,
ballroom.
gotcha.
They do have Irish step dancing now,
Ooh,
which has really grown by leaps and bounds. But like I said, started in Elizabethton 71 years ago. They've got two studios there, and they've got or two studio floors there, and two up in Bristol.
how does somebody connect with her to get their kids
So
or
it's
themselves into dance lessons?
Watts Dance Studio. It's
Watts,
online. Watts Dance Studio or WDS.
WDS.
And they do a great. I think they do a great job. They've done something right for 71 years. And the other fun thing about that, it's again from living here.
Yeah,
You'll start looking at generations.
sure.
So when they had their 50th anniversary, it was the grandmother and the mother and the child now, and
Yeah,
so now we're going into more generations who danced there,
yeah.
and I just think that's kind of cool. It's cool for the parents who can say, "Oh, you can go where I went," and they just do a good job. They have a performance group. They travel. They have master teachers come in from other places. But it's a great little enterprise, and they enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Um, I want to take a hip hop class.
I
We were trying to get Christian, our youngest, into a hip hop class because we were like, bro, if you can dance, and because they go to these dances, it's going to be a lot better for you, I promise. And so you won't be nervous to sit on the sidelines,
yeah. My son never wanted for a date anywhere.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah, he probably was forced to dance early.
He they both my kids dance. And of course, my daughter is a dance professor now, and then also still teaches at the studio. And so
That's awesome.
it's just like going to school for a business degree or
Yeah.
anything
What was her
else.
major discipline? Ballet.
So it was really everything contemporary probably, but
Okay.
her undergrad was from Radford,
Okay.
and then she also did a master's here at ETSU in communications,
Nice.
and then she did a MFA, which is your terminal degree in arts, through Goddard College,
Huh.
and ended up with a cohort on the West Coast. And so it's been fun watching that. That's
Sure.
new to me.
Yeah.
It's been fun watching what they've been able to do, and then of course now she's back and leveraging her skill set and doing what she loves to do.
We love watching dance. Like that show, You Think You Could Dance show
Yeah,
was on. Carly and I, that was one of our favorites for years.
yeah,
And then you see, yeah, I'm just blown away by how people can handle that and do the things they do. It's just beautiful.
yeah. My kids
Beautiful.
back in the day, um, were selected to go out and do some things at Shen Spark Studio in LA.
Oh wow.
And so I think they enjoyed that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Tell me something that you're fired up about or inspired about right now, or you've read recently that you'd like to share with our listeners.
So, I think I'm inspired about. I just had a conversation before I came in here about new
Uh
technologies
huh.
that you can use to make life easier or better. And
Like a
so,
fax machine.
yeah, I'll
Uh,
get you one.
I'm kidding.
I think that I'm most fired up about how you take applications that have been perhaps in one industry and put them in another industry. So how do you look at Alexa in the healthcare industry? How do you look at use of mobile smart devices in the healthcare industry
Sure.
for improved communication? Um, so I think that if you were asking me what I really love to look through and read about and just see what other new startups are out there
Yeah.
and people who are finding all kinds of applications for using that technology and making life easier.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting closer to retirement, so my healthcare
What?
has to be good when I retire.
You're not even close.
I didn't say how many years, but we have to make
We won't
sure.
ask you how old you are. I've asked some people and they're like, I'm not telling you that.
We might have the conversation. Like we did talk about years we graduated from undergrad, and
We
you
did.
too.
We
So
did. We did.
if you're quick with your math.
That's true. If you had your calculator out while you were listening to the Johnson City Living podcast. Okay. How can our listeners connect with you?
So easy to connect with me. I'm on Twitter, TallTL,
Nice.
and Instagram, Tom
Yeah.
Tall, Facebook, Tom Toll. And if it's Ballad Health, if you ask anyone in the organization, I'm looking for Tom Toll, they can help you find me.
Track you down.
They can track me down. And I'm also happy, folks, it's never a perfect process.
Right.
And so I'm always curious to listen and learn.
Yeah.
And so I'm available if someone needs to talk to me or has questions. I'm available.
You're available. And you can be found at the gym most mornings at 6 a.m.
If you
at
want
the
to come,
Wellness
if you
Center.
want to come to the Wellness Center,
Another
absolutely.
Ballad facility that's fantastic. We love it.
Yep, we'll be there exercising, and
We will be there. Yes.
we'll invite you to come. I teach a couple classes. You can
You
come take
do a
some
great job.
classes.
And
You can
Christian,
come.
and he's been coming Mondays with you, and he's like, man, that was hard. And I'm like, yeah. And
It's
Tom,
good
but
to have that
you do
there.
a great job. Yeah. Group power if you want to come pump weights and
We just
get
have
cardio. We do it all
we
over
just have
there.
fun. One of the things I do think is interesting about the people there
Uh-huh.
is they're so supportive.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got the people who are, you got your beefcakes all the way down to those of us who are not.
Right.
But it's just a supportive group to have fun with.
It really is a good group of folks out there every morning.
Yep.
And we love them and we love you. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming on the podcast and spending some time with our listeners today. I'm sure they got to know you a little bit more, and I'm sure they've enjoyed listening to you and about Ballad Health. Thank you for telling us about that. And listeners, thank you guys for listening. And until next time, I'm Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. And if you want to sell your home or make a move to Johnson City, we are here to help. You can reach out, and we would love to make Johnson City your permanent residence.